Okay, so today we're going to go over the Vienna. And the Vienna is an opening that helped me go from about 600 rapid to 1200 rapid in just a couple of months. So if you have not been introduced to the Vienna, it starts after e4, e5, and instead of going knight to f3 like normal, you do knight to c3. And this is the beginning of the Vienna game. So now black has two main options. You can go here or here. The lower elos, most of the time you will see knight to f6. And so we'll go over this first. So this is the introduction to the Vienna gambit. As soon as you see knight to f6, you're going to play f4. And now black's faced with an option. They can develop and decline your gambit. Decline, decline, or they can accept. And at lower elos, I see people accept this all the time. And from this exact situation, I have almost 400 games played and about a 72% win rate. As soon as they take, you push your pawn forward. You're attacking this knight. Now if you look, the knight actually doesn't have very many squares to go to. These two are guarded by your knight. These two are guarded by your queen. And I can't tell you how many games I've had where they go to one of these squares thinking that it's safe. And then you just win a piece on like move 4. So, best move for black is to just undevelop. And as soon as they undevelop, you're going to play knight to f3. And remember this, knight to f3, knight to f3, knight to f3. The reason for this is because you're blocking queen to h4 check. You do not want to allow this. This is not any fun for white. So always play knight f3 to block that. So now they can just develop like normal. You play d4, you're getting ready to recapture your pawn. They still can't come here because it's completely defended by your pawn. Developing is not natural for black at all. Do this. But you just have such a lead on development. And they have like nothing. It's very hard for black to win from here. So also from this situation, if they accept and you push forward, if they don't want to retreat their knight, then this is a line that happens all the time and is one of my favorites. They'll play queen to e7, pinning your pawn to your king. So as soon as they do that, your automatic response should be to do the same thing. Now you're unpinning the pawn. And now this is a real threat again. So now they actually have to move their knight back. It's the best move for black. As soon as they do that, again, you're going to play knight to f3. Reason? Because you're blocking queen to h4 check. So now the two main options that I see played are either knight to c6 or pawn to d6. Now both of them can lead to pretty much the same line, and it's a very, very fun line. So if they play this, then you're just going to respond with pawn to d4. You're defending this pawn, and you're also creating a discovered attack to regain your pawn. So now, from this situation, what I see played more often than not, and they still can't develop here, what seems like the most natural developing move. Either this or this. If they play this, if they play d6, your eyes should light up. As soon as that is played, remember, knight to d5. Knight to d5 is hitting their queen, and it's also hitting c7. So now black has to move their queen. And they cannot go to e6 because of this. You just win the queen. So they have to go to one of these two squares. So d7 or d8. In either one, you're going to make the same move, which is knight to c7. Check. Forking the king and the rook. Now, if they take here, this is where you unleash. E takes d6. Discover check. They can move their queen back, but you win it. It doesn't matter what they do, you win their queen. And this has happened so many times. Such a fun line. And they don't even have to play knight to c6 first. As soon as they play d6, you should always follow it up with d5. Knight to d5, hitting their queen. And the same rules apply here. If they go here, you have this, winning their queen. If they go here, you're going to do this, winning their queen. It's not a good line for black. It just is not. So those are all of the accepted lines. So now there are a couple ways that they can decline your gambit. If they don't want to accept it, they don't have to. This is the most popular decline that I see, and it leads to a very fun line. So I'll go back to this position. If you see this, and then you play pawn to f4, and they don't want to accept your pawn, if they play knight to c6, you must remember this. Take their pawn, and they will always recapture. And once they recapture, you're going to push your pawn to d4. And now they have two options. They can either go knight to c6, or they can go knight to g6. And knight to g6 is actually the better move. It's probably the one that I see the most often. But once that happens, it doesn't matter which square they go to, you're going to play the same next move. e5. You're hitting this again. And if you look, everything is still guarded by the same. So it has to go back. Once it goes back, what are you going to play? We're blocking this. Knight f3. And again, look at your development compared to theirs. You have 4 pieces developed while they have 1. This is completely losing. And here, if they go here, you do the same thing. They have to go back. And you still have your 4 compared to their 1. The continuations from that can go many different ways, but you're just winning. White's just winning. Another way that they can decline is by playing this. And really, I hate that move, because it just blocks in their dark square bishop. It's just not good. It is not good at all. It's hindering their development. And you can play it normal from here, just simple development. But it's just a bad move. They're just blocking in their dark square bishop. So whenever this happens, I don't take here. I just leave this pawn here, blocking their bishop. Okay, so now we've looked at everything with the Vienna gambit. Let's look at c6. And once you see c6, you're going to play bishop to c4. And now black has some options. They can go c5, they can go b4, they can pull out this knight, can push. But what I see more often than not is bishop to c5. And if you look, this is the copycat variation. So once you see the copycat, this is where you must remember the move queen to g4. So now, the 2 most played moves are queen to f6 or knight to f6. If knight to f6, you just play this, and you're in a very winning position. Black's best move here, queen to f6, because they're targeting the f2 pawn. It looks very good. It's almost mate, actually. So once they play queen to f6, and this is forewarning, this is going to be a pretty deep theoretical line. You don't have to memorize it, but I recommend that you do, because you will run into this so often. Once they play queen to f6, you're going to play knight to d5. Hitting the queen, hitting c7, threatening this fort. So now, the move for black is to take, which they will. And don't be scared. As soon as they take on f2, you're just going to move over from e1 to d1. And this looks like mate, but it is not, because it is guarded by your bishop. Once in a while, you will have somebody that thinks this is mate, and you will just get a free queen, and they'll resign. But after this, and for black, there's only one move here that's not losing on this spot, and that is king to f8. If you see king to f8, then they've either deeply studied this line, or they're very good, or they're a cheater. After that move, you're going to play knight to g3, targeting their queen. Now, best move for black, and I've only seen this once against me, unless it was somebody that watches my stream and sees me play this line all the time, is pawn to h5. I've only seen it once, and the guy actually ended up getting banned. So he was actually cheating. So this is actually the best move. Whenever that happens, you're just going to move your queen forward. Doesn't matter. So now their queen only has one square that's safe for them, and that's in this little pocket. So they'll go there, and generally, instead of this move, they'll just go ahead and play that. So as soon as you see them move their queen into the little pocket, you're gonna start closing the hole. You're gonna play d3, and now they have a couple of options. And now you're just playing for the idea of c3. You're trying to, the queen is almost completely trapped. They can go to c5 now, but then you're gonna play for this idea, and it's almost unstoppable. This is just purely winning for white. So again, once you see the copycat, queen to g5, they go queen to f6, then you go knight to d5, targeting this. And actually the best move for them is to play this, f2 check. Move your king, and if they don't play king to f8, which most of them will not. Somebody played this against me yesterday. And after that, you just take here. So that's the copycat variation. So now we have this. If they decide they don't want to copycat, they'll play this. And this is just a standard approach to the Vienna. And once you see the two knights versus your bishop and knight, you're going to play d3. Most of the time they'll do this, and then you have an option. Some people play this. I generally like just the standard knight to f3 approach. And once you have this, and then you go knight to f3, then you've transposed into the piano game. Like, this is a completely different line. This is technically no longer the Vienna. But yeah, that's the Vienna. I mean, you can also, after this, so sometimes in this line, you, instead of seeing c5, you'll see b4. And whenever you see b4, always go knight to e2, so that you can recapture here. And you also have this pin available as well. So they can castle, you can push, you can either a3, you can castle as well. Both of them are good. So if they do this and then they take, you recapture with your knight. And life's pretty good. If you have any other questions or anything of the sort, just comment down below, or comment an opening that you would like me to go over, and I would love to. Thank you guys so much, and until next time, goodbye.